Hello, everyone. I'm Rick Goff. Tonight, joining me in the lineup is Drew Hesketh from Canes, Ohio. Drew, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Rick. Appreciate it.
Drew is the 13U coach for Canes, Ohio. Plus, he runs the organization. I'm sure he coaches other teams. He wears many hats there for the organization. Drew, talk a little bit about how Canes in Cincinnati, Ohio got started. Canes is usually affiliated with the southeastern part of the region, and they're expanding. They've expanded to Ohio. And talk a little bit about that when you guys got started and how your relationship with the Canes is.
Yeah, so honestly, I kind of alluded to what we were talking about earlier, starting something organic here in Cincinnati, trying to kind of build something that was, kind of our own. And the biggest issue I had was retaining talent, um, you know, getting players to stay with us. It seemed like all the better athletes were always looking to be with the bigger brands. So I essentially approached the Canes, presented them a 5-year plan on how I would advocate for their brand and how I could build it here in Ohio. And they gave me the okay, and here we are. So started it in 2020. Ran the first group of players that I had all the way through high school. All those guys are now in college playing, and I've decided to start over with a 13U team and run those guys up. So we've got a lot of talented players in our program right now. Our 2025 class is extremely talented, um, and yeah, we're just trying to build it, man. Trying to steady move up and to the right.
So, yeah. So let me make sure I understand. You guys were a different name 4 years ago, and you kind of saw the writing on the wall and like, man, if I want to do some things out there on the next level, getting to these high end tournaments, I can't get there with the name that we have. So I feel I need to get that name recognition in order to get into some of these bigger events around the country. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yeah, 100%. Yep.
All right, so you did it for the advancement and the betterment of the players in your organization, and here you are 4 years later. Do you still think that's the right move?
I do. I do. It's the brand has a lot of power. I guess the best way to put it is like you kind of have some credibility right out of the gate. Um, Now, obviously, it's still about the people and the people that you put in place to run these teams and that ultimately create the foundation of any organization. But having that brand power, having that network of people that we do have, um, we kind of have these tentacles that can kind of go all throughout the country, and that benefits our players greatly.
Yeah, it's almost like some of the obstacles or roadblocks, if you will, have kind of been lifted and removed out of your way just by having that Canes name, and I'm sure that's the the sentiment across the country, whether you're talking to Canes in Ohio or Canes in Washington or Canes in Texas. It's a brand that they've put out there that they've kind of went nationwide with, hoping to get that recognition, and it seems like it's been successful, especially with the older ages. I know the Canes are not really known for the younger ages, but they're making a tremendous move in that aspect in that territory. Predominantly, Canes has been affiliated with the older groups. I mean, we've all seen the bus that they have for Canes, and do you guys have access to that bus?
Yeah, we do. So there's a few of them in the country, and we're so being in Ohio, we're kind of the under the umbrella of the Midwest. So so most of the time when I have an issue that I need settled, um, I'm going to Jay Hunley in the Midwest. So we're kind of underneath their umbrella. So he's kind of like the Midwest director. So he kind of oversees all the teams throughout the Midwest region. And yeah, Jay has one, and if the dates align and we're able to use it, absolutely, yeah,
Well, we've got to see that bus a few times at Travel Ball Select, and it's an impressive vehicle when it pulls up to the parking lot. It's intimidating. It's a good looking bus, and I
yeah,
mean people just gather around and take pictures of it, and the players have to feel like rock stars coming off that thing.
yeah, yeah. And hopefully we'll pull up to South Carolina in June. And
That's well, like I said, it wouldn't be the first time. We've seen it at TBS before, so it definitely makes its way around. Now, let's talk a little bit about the state of the game right now. Youth baseball in general. I'm sure you have seen it change dramatically, the landscape over your time in baseball. Talk a little bit about those changes, whether they're good or bad, and what's your take on, say 10, 15, 20 years ago. I don't know how far back you go, but up until today.
yeah, so this is year 16 coaching for me. So I have been around that side of things for a while. I also have a training facility. So I've been involved in the game essentially my whole life. And I think the biggest thing that I see nowadays, um, I think players are extremely overcoached. I think that players, when I grew up, I learned how to fail. I learned how to just figure things out on my own quite a bit. And I really feel like this generation of player, every time something doesn't go right, or like anytime they make a bad swing, they're always like looking over their shoulder for somebody to tell them what happened or why they did what they did and how they can fix it. So it's that's something that I do struggle with for sure. I kind of have the mentality of like, let's take 100 swings and then let's coach. I really want kids to figure out a lot of things on their own, let their body kind of organize itself to accomplish whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish. Um, but probably the biggest thing is the training. Um, I mean, kids are training essentially year round. I mean, it doesn't stop, and there's like this big fear of missing out with a lot of parents, and they feel like if I don't get with it, I'm gonna get left behind. And so it's a fine line. There's a lot of kids that I've seen get burnt out, and by the time they're upperclassmen in high school, they don't love the game anymore.
Well, I'm
Is
gonna
that
interrupt you right there. I'm gonna
yeah?
stop you right there because you bring up a great point that I really want to get your opinion on. You just said that you see some kids, they burn out by the time they get to upperclassmen. And the negative Nancy's out there about baseball attribute that to starting these kids when they're playing 7, 8, 9 years old. And yes, does it happen? Absolutely. But you also have to agree that there's also kids that do succeed as upperclassmen and that, and they did start at 7 and 8 and 9 years old, right? It's different for everybody. You can't put everybody in the same bubble, correct?
100%. Yeah. And that's what I mean by that fine line because I've seen it on both sides. I've seen that kid that if he hadn't done that, he wouldn't be playing in college right now. He wouldn't have the opportunity that he has.
Yeah.
And I've seen it on the flip side where the kid is just falls out of love with it because it's been too much for him. Too much weight for him to carry. Um, Too many people around him and his village taking it way too serious and just putting way too much pressure that's not necessary, honestly.
Do you think a lot of that pressure that you're referring to and the problem out there with these kids nowadays as compared to when you started 16 years ago, for me, it's two words, I think, and it's just my opinion, one man's opinion. And the two words are social media. And for me, 16 years ago, when you failed or you did something, the only people that knew about it were the people who were there in attendance at the game.
Right.
Now, with social media, as soon as you do something, whether it's bad or good, it's on social media and hundreds of thousands of people know about it within 15 seconds.
Right. Yeah. I totally agree with that, Rick. Like that's social media is, I have such a love-hate relationship with it.
Yeah.
Um, I think that definitely has its benefits, but certainly has its pitfalls for sure.
Well, I think this is where a lot of the pressure comes from the players because they get on social media and they see Timmy over there hitting a home run and winning it for their game. Now they feel that pressure, like, oh my God, that's what I need to do here. And I
Yeah.
think the hardest thing for this generation of player to realize is if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're considered phenomenal. And that's what these
Right.
kids don't realize. And I think you alluded to it earlier is the experience to fail and the experience not to succeed. And they are setting their expectations way too high that they need to succeed 8 out of 10 times, which is just not possible, right? We know that it's not possible. But their mindset from seeing this on social media, that's not the way they think, is it?
No, it isn't. And you're absolutely right about that. And there's a lot of things that contribute to that. Social media, definitely one of them. Family, one of them. Um, but you're right. I was literally just talking to a player last night. Um, he was asking for some advice about being recruited, and I literally was telling this kid like, you haven't even started your junior year yet, your junior season yet, and like you have you have time. So like just because your buddy's posting on social media that he's committed and your other buddy's posting that he's committed, like don't let that rush you into making a poor decision
A bad
because
decision. Yeah.
a bad decision because you just you're kind of following what you're seeing on social media versus you know having some patience to let the process kind of play itself out. I don't know how many guys I've seen don't even make a commitment until, especially now with the way recruiting's changed, but that's a whole another rabbit hole we could go down. But they're not committing until their senior year. And I'm like, man, 2024 is going to be a big year for you. Just let it play out. Don't make
Yeah.
any decisions right now. You don't have to. Take some of that pressure off yourself. Just go do you. Go play your game and just watch what happens.
And here's
So,
another thing too. I know that the trend for a while was these eighth graders committing, to these big time colleges, right? And then you had to wait 5 years to see if that was really going to pan out. And people criticized kids for committing so early. And when I was coaching, that last group that I coached was an extremely talented group of young men, and they all went to play D1. My whole starting nine went on to play D1 college, 8 in baseball and 1 in football. And, I told them that, you don't need to be in a hurry. It's it'll come to you. If they want you, they will come and get you. Um,
right,
just, you know, go back to social media and you're talking about people seeing all these highlights on social media. But let me ask you something. How
yes,
many failures do you see on social media? Right?
right,
Mom and dad is quick, or the player is quick to post the home run or the diving play, but yet you never see them post a strikeout or the error, right? They never post that. They only post the good, not the bad.
yep,
And and I get it. I mean, who wants to post something a bad video, right? But it's just the
right.
expectations that go on with these kids and how much pressure they're under to I got to have something good happen in this game today so I can post it on social media.
Yeah, we create a false reality. And look, as coaches and trainers, like we're equally guilty. Um, I post videos all the time, and I'm not posting pictures of my or videos of my guys struggling in the cage. I'm showing all the good stuff that they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Um, so maybe I think everybody could take a collective step back and kind of reevaluate that whole process and what we consider success to be.
And I kind of got sidetracked there because the topic was about these kids committing early. But there are some kids that commit early and they see it through. And it goes back to what we talked about. You can't put everybody in the same bubble, right? Every situation is different. Case in point, a tremendous player from up in Michigan, and I respect his father dearly, and that's Alex Mooney out of Michigan, who went to Duke University. And his dad has given me some insight on baseball and his experiences with recruitment, and then he actually got drafted last year, and so he left Duke after 2 years. And he told me one thing that really resonated with me is that he never, and he started doing this in high school, I believe, he never posted anything about Alex on social media. The only thing he did was repost something that was out there. And I thought, man, that's a different way to look at it. And I wish all parents kind of looked at it that way, because that's somebody else talking about your child, something good that they done. And I really had a lot of respect for Joe and what he did with that with Alex. And I think it's went a long way for his development as well.
Yeah, it's very neat, actually. I'm familiar with the Mooney guy. Um, Super talented, man. Wow.
Yeah, no, and he's having some success now. He got drafted and he's enjoying himself. And he went to college for 2 years and played for Duke and got that under his belt, which probably invaluable experience. And now he's moved on. So good for those
Yeah.
guys. And but my point with Mooney, again, I got sidetracked. He committed as a ninth grader to Duke, ninth grade to Duke, and he stuck it through. Um, and I give Joe a lot of credit because he went to Duke his freshman year, and I asked Joe during his freshman season, I'm like, hey, how is Alex doing at Duke? And he's like, well, he's a freshman, it's up and it's down. And I said, well, the hot thing right now is the transfer portal, right? Everybody, if they don't like the situation, they jump in the transfer portal. And so I
Yep.
asked Joe about that, and I said, "Hey, has Alex ever talked to you about the transfer portal?" And he emphatically said, "Absolutely not." He made a commitment to Duke. That's where it's going. I told him, and this was a quote from Joe. I told him if he entertains transferring, he can walk to his next college himself.
Well,
And
good for
I
Joe.
just was like, "Oh my God, this is awesome." In a day of parents saying, well, if you don't like it, just transfer. Joe basically said, listen, to Alex, you made a commitment. You're staying and that's where you're going. And if you want to transfer, you're
Yeah.
going to walk to your next school because I'm not being a part of it. I wish there was
We,
more Joe Mooney's out
frankly,
there in the world today.
frankly, we need more of that.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's what's up, buddy? The trickle down effect that this transfer portal has on amateur baseball is, I feel like it's really hurting the game.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. Right. And I agree with you. Now I'm hearing stories that the NIL money is now even looking to trickle down into the high school portion of it. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Uh, I hope not. I hope not. Um, I think that all this the NIL and the transfer portal, two very different things. The transfer portal, I cannot stand it, and it's like the what it's created is essentially exactly what you said. If you don't like it, we'll just go somewhere else. And so that's literally what amateur baseball is now. Somebody makes a commitment to a team, whether it's verbal, whether they sign something, whether they put money into it, and things don't go the way they want them to go. 2, 3 months, they're out. I mean, it's happening to us. It's happening to everybody, and I just think that's the mentality that we're creating in these young kids. So by the time they do get into college, that's just their mindset. If it's not working out for me, I'm out, and it's unfortunate, and I feel like it's just really hurt the idea of number one, commitment. Um, when we say we're going to do something, we actually do it and we stick it through it. Obviously, you can't put everybody into that box. There's obvious situations where, if something is detrimental or, harmful for somebody, they need to get away from it. But if it's just because, you're not getting playing time that you think you should, um,
And that's what it's boiled
and
down to
look,
is
that's
they
what
don't
it
like their
boils down
playing
to.
time.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean,
Yeah.
they
That's
can
really
say
the
whatever
end.
they want as an excuse, but we all know it's a playing time issue, right? I mean, that's what it's
It
boiled
is.
down to. Well, listen, it sounds like we've got a lot of the same thoughts and ideas about the state of the game right now, and unfortunately, if they don't do something with this NIL and this transfer portal, it's going to have an effect on the younger generation of baseball players and even down into the youth of the game. I mean, we see some things in the youth game right now that make me cringe, and I'm hoping that it will change and turn around, but only time will tell, right? I mean, it's something that we have to kind of wait out and see what happens. But hey, listen, Drew, I appreciate you joining us today. Man, I can't believe our time is
Absolutely.
up already. This has really flown by. What a great talk. What a great conversation. Some insight from you and your opinions, man. I really appreciate it. Good luck this year. And we will see you out in Myrtle Beach in June.
Yes, we will. Appreciate you, Rick. Thanks for having me, brother.